Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here since I spent the last 40 minutes in the campus center ballroom listening to an entirely different conference on the state of medicine, and it finally dawned on me that I was in the wrong place. But on second thought, I might have been in the right place because I'm supposed to come here to discuss with you something that doesn't exist. The question of race and inequality. Now, in the discourse of the time, we have been told a number of things which have become articles of faith and mantras in what has become the political discourse of the country. The first one is race is merely a social construct, which is to say it's an intellectual construct. It's not ens real. It has no reality in things. Therefore, any discussion of race is a discussion of an illusion. This has been advanced by certain intellectuals, but it certainly has been jumped upon and advanced by the right wing of the country for reasons of their own. The other element which makes what I'm supposed to be discussing irrelevant is that the election of Barack Obama has signaled the advent of a post-racial America. So this non-existent concept, which we had thought was so functional and so operative in the cultural operation of this country, has been finally put to rest by the election of a black president. So because race is purely a social construct, and because we now exist in a post-racial America, to discuss the subject I'm supposed to discuss is nonsense. It's pointless. And there are reasons for a post-racial America. And one of the most significant contributing factors is the triumph of cultural diversity. Now, we're talking about myths here, so they don't have to be intellectually compatible. Race is irrelevant, but cultural diversity is not. And we now live in a culturally diverse America, and the greatest evidence for which, of course, are the presences, the black presences in the White House. And then the other contributing element to a post-racial culture is the triumph of the meritocracy, against evidence by the Obama family, that people of whatever ethnic background people of whatever ethnic background can simply rise to the top and triumph in a race-free social culture in which merit, some of you will be old enough to remember the misuse of Martin Luther King's famous phrase, where my children will be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And in this race-free nirvana, meritocracy is the only element which affects a person's rise within the meritocracy and race-free America. If these things are true, what am I doing here? The fact is, they're none of them true. They're none of them true, but they don't exist accidentally or by coincidence. They are part of an elaborate construct of a virtual reality, which has nothing to do with what you experience every day in your life, which has nothing to do with the impoverishment of American workers. A central mantra of the people who are advanced and the forces who are advanced in these notions is that the greatest problem of the American economy is what? What's the greatest problem of the American economy? No. That's the second problem. The greatest problem of and they write this in their journals and in their discourse. They don't say it publicly, but, to the masses. But the greatest problem of the American economy is that the American worker is grossly overpaid. Haven't you heard that? And this imbalances the labor management profit equation in the midst of the marketplace. And that is part of the reason why you see this movement against labor unions. But it's not just against organized labor. Right now, as I was coming here, I heard that the state of Connecticut, and it wasn't clear whether the relief they sought was from litigation or from legislation, but a great wrong being done to the taxpayers in Connecticut is that shop stewards and union representatives in the public unions are using company time, the taxpayers' time, to go about the business of the union. So there's a concerted attack on the working class. There's a concerted attack on public sector unions. But that is a function, and it's not unrelated to Barack Obama's announcing that his campaign would begin. It's all in preparation to the next campaign for the American presidency. And obviously somewhere, events in Wisconsin suggest that somewhere in the vast right-wing conspiracy, they have determined that one a strong element of the Democratic base are the public unions, and they must engage them, attack them, get them out of the equation as rapidly as possible. I have 1 minute, and I've managed to suggest a number of things that it will be important to discuss with you. But I'll content myself by saying this virtual reality in which Americans act against their own interest, this virtual reality in which a small minority with a very cramped, limited, stunted view of what American society can be, hopes to control the democratic processes by people taking over government who don't believe in government, whose processes are to cripple the government. That can only be done by the suppression of the vote. And by suppressing the vote, you're talking about poor folks, you're talking about black people, you're talking about minorities who are not supposed to exist, all of which is complicated by the real fact that by 2050, so they tell us, white folks in this country will be a minority. Those are the issues which subsume and on the right the kind of what passes for media discourse in the country and what is juggled and used and manipulated in sundry ways to try and confuse you in a culture which is not diverse. We're talking about the emerging of a technological mass communication culture which is characterized by its superficiality, by its inaccuracy, by disinformation, and is easily manipulable. And you have to probe and interrogate those to discuss what the role of race in this new post-racial American society is.